Welcome to It's a Crime. I'm Linda, and today we are going to be talking about the latest information on Tammy Daybell. We're also going to touch a little bit on Mark Means and his head-slapping tweets. But before we get into it, if you'd like to be part of the It's a Crime community, please be sure to click that subscribe button below, hit that notification bell to all. Please share this video out where you can and give it a like. Now, let's get into it. It's been 14 long months since Tammy Daybell's body was exhumed for an autopsy. And on Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021, the Utah medical examiner forwarded the results of Tammy's autopsy to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. There was a statement released the next day on Thursday, February 4th, that confirmed receiving the autopsy report, but because it's an open and ongoing investigation, they aren't making the results public at that time, and it remains under seal as evidence. The statement reads, "Yesterday, the Fremont County Sheriff's Office received the autopsy report on Tammy Daybell's body from the Utah medical examiner. The contents of this report will not be made public at this time as it is evidence in an open and ongoing investigation. We will release additional information as it becomes available." Len Humphreys, Fremont County Sheriff. Now, Tammy died on October 19th, 2019, and it was a week after that bizarre incident where she was standing in the driveway and a masked man came up to her with what she thought was a loaded paintball gun. She was shot at several times, but it misfired. And Tammy went on Facebook not long after that, and she posted about what happened. She said, "Something really weird just happened. A guy wearing a ski mask was suddenly standing by the back of my car with a paintball gun. He shot at me several times." And a week later after that incident, she died, which was 17 days before Chad Daybell married Lori. They got married on November 5th, and I have to throw in a little reminder here that Lori ordered wedding attire and wedding rings 2 weeks before Tammy's first attempt on her life. It would be interesting to find out when they actually booked their wedding arrangements and their flight to Hawaii, wouldn't it? Back to Tammy's death. Chad said Tammy went to bed that evening with a terrible cough, and he says he discovered that she had died in her sleep when he woke up the next morning. It was said that she was actually in good health and was training for a race. Chad, however, says that she had heart issues when he was talking to Melanie Gibb on that phone call, and that Tammy hated to see the doctors. Chad says, "My own children were there. They testified that Tammy had been getting weaker and sick, and I begged her to go to the doctor. Her heart was failing her. She was physically falling apart, and she hates doctors, and she just passed away. That's how it happened. My son Garth was right there with me the whole time. My kids were at the house within 20 minutes of her passing. There were 2 coroners. They checked her out right there on the bed." So he's saying Garth was there the whole time, but it makes it sound like Garth was there in the moment she passed away. And in another statement, he's saying he awoke to her and she was already gone. So which one is it, Chad? As for heart failure, you know who else had heart failure? Joseph Ryan, Charles Vallow, although he was shot in the chest, but his heart failed him, and Alex Cox. And now, according to Chad, Tammy Daybell. Interesting pattern, isn't it? So I'd like to know when Tammy actually went to the doctor's last and what kind of bill of health the doctor gave her. Certainly you would think if she did have heart issues that it wouldn't be recommended for her to do a race, in my opinion. Serious heart issues anyway. Notable, Chad urged Tammy a couple weeks before to visit her family in Springville, Utah, and according to her family, she showed no sign of sickness. And you'd think if she had her heart failing her, that she would tell her parents and her siblings the news, or somebody. So Chad did not request an autopsy, and in the state of Idaho, you don't need one. He did, though, up Tammy's life insurance substantially before she died, and he got $440,000 out of that deal. Again, I'd like to know the date of that insurance and when he upped it. My bet is it was right before the so-called paintball gun incident. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. So Chad received $440,000 for Tammy's death, which I'm sure by now has been eaten up by all these legal costs. We do know and heard that Chad's lawyer, John Pryor, actually purchased Chad's home as well. So can you imagine the lawyer bills so far, and then add to that the whole John Pryor and Mark Means going after Rob Wood? And that wasted 2 days of the court's time there. So imagine what it's going to be in summertime. All for nothing, eh, Chad? Now, this is what good old Chad wrote shortly after Tammy died and a few short days before his nuptials to Lori. He wrote this to another voice of warning, aka a vow, and it's dated October 31st, 2019. It's called As I See It by Chad Daybell, and he entitles it also Moving into the Second Half of My Life. More on that in a minute. Let's dive in. My dear wife Tammy passed away in her sleep early Saturday, October 19th. When I awoke at around 6 a.m., it was clear she had been gone for several hours. It came as a shock. I couldn't believe I hadn't been awakened somehow, but all indications are that her spirit simply slipped away during the night. Her face looked serene, with her eyes closed and a slight smile. It was devastating to discover her that way, but I'm so grateful that her death was peaceful. Now, I do have to comment on this because he says how devastating it was to discover her in bed peaceful after a night of that terrible cough. Yet, a week before, she had an attempt made on her life, and no mention of this anywhere in his soliloquy. He goes on to say, Tammy really was the anchor of our family and our publishing business. We have worked side by side from the moment we were married in the Manti Temple in 1990. It is safe to say I never would have become an author without her faith in me and her constant encouragement. Tammy herself wasn't a visionary woman, but she believed what I told her and trusted my decisions. Side note, he would say that Tammy's dead grandmother, Lucille, would tell him things that she needed to get done, and then she would believe him, and because it's a message passed on, and it's my belief and opinion that Chad would manipulate Tammy this way. Notable also, Lucille's birthday is actually on September 23rd, and every year Chad claims that she comes to visit him and speaks to him from beyond the veil. Back to Tammy. He says, she often said that she felt like Lehi's wife Sariah in the Book of Mormon, where her faith was often tested by the unexpected twists and turns of our lives, but she was grateful when the Lord would fulfill the promises that had been made regarding our family. She had a brilliant mind, especially when it came to computers. She wore so many hats in our company, from being chief financial officer to operating our websites to designing book covers. I'm still sorting out how I'm going to cope with this tremendous loss, but thankfully I have a son whose mind works like Tammy's and will be able to muddle through these tasks, although not as efficiently as she did. He says, I'm still sorting out how I'm going to cope with this tremendous loss. And we do see within 2 weeks how he really copes with his loss. But what concerns me here, on top of everything else, is how businesslike this is. It's as if he's losing a coworker, but thank goodness he has his son to carry on the duties to help him out. Good thing he has a backup. So next he says, stepping into the future. Tammy conveyed to me several messages and I'm in the process of implementing what she has told me to do. She has indicated that my life has 2 parts that were planned even before I came to Earth. And in the call with Melanie Gibb, we do hear Chad talking about these 2 parts, but he claims it as his own, and so it's a little bit different. But he says, I just knew that my life had 2 segments, and I know Tammy's on a special mission, and she's with my kids. She's visited them. There's so much, Melanie, that you just have faith, and this is not some sort of master plan. Another side note, when Tammy died on October 19th, the kids had already been buried in her backyard and in Chad's backyard. And it was just before Lori made her purchases for these upcoming nuptials and renting out the storage unit. Another side note, if you're wondering, Tammy was most likely at work during the week as the kids were being buried in the yard. So Tammy's body was exhumed on December 11, 2019, one day before Alex Cox died of a pulmonary embolism. And because it had been almost 2 months since her death, when they exhumed her, it was reported that it would take a substantial amount of time before her autopsy was completed. And not only that, but it was also mentioned that they needed to know what to test for on Tammy as well when it came to poisons and, the toxicology report. Like things like other people are speculating, like malachite, Visine, pretty much everything under the sun you could hear of, people are coming up with. And it's going to be so very interesting to find out what actually was in her body. And I'm sure at this point, Chad's freaking out a little bit. He just has nowhere to run this time. Now, also on Thursday, February 4th, there was a press release from the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office that states, effective this week, the Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney's Office has resumed full authority and responsibility over the case of the death of Tammy Daybell. The newly elected prosecutor, Lindsay A. Blake, requested the case be transferred back to Fremont to be handled locally. The Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney's Office thanks the Idaho Attorney General's Office for their hard work, time, and effort on this case. Lindsay A. Blake, Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney. Now, 3 days before that was a letter to Lindsay Blake stating, Dear Lindsay, in April 2020, your predecessor, Marcia Murdoch, requested prosecutorial assistance from this office related to the death of Tammy Daybell pursuant to IC 31-2603, which permits a county prosecuting attorney to request the assistance of the Idaho Attorney General's Office. This office agreed to provide the requested assistance in a letter to Ms. Murdoch dated April 9, 2020. By a signed agreement between the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office and the Idaho Attorney General's Office, the Attorney General's Office assumed full responsibility and authority for the case on April 9, 2020, and has been investigating the case and providing prosecutorial assistance regarding the case since that time. As the newly elected Fremont County Prosecutor, you have requested the Attorney General's Office return the Tammy Daybell case to your office. This office only had jurisdiction to investigate and prosecute the case to your predecessor's request for assistance and the mutual agreement signed on April 9, 2020. Since you have now withdrawn the request for assistance, we will return the matter to your office. Effective immediately, the Idaho Attorney General's Office relinquishes full responsibility and authority for the case to the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office, and all decisions regarding to the case shall be the responsibility of your office. As a result, this office will no longer take any action to investigate or provide prosecutorial assistance in the case. My staff will provide you with a copy of our case file and are available to answer any questions you may have related to our investigation and prosecutorial assistance provided to date. Please let me know if you have any other questions about this matter. Sincerely, Colleen D. Zahn, Deputy Attorney General, Chief Criminal Law Division. So, Chad and Lori have been under investigation for conspiracy, attempted murder, and murder in the connection of Tammy Daybell. Let's see what transpires, and let's see what they get slapped with. Now, Chad's lawyer, Mark Means, took it to Twitter about Tammy and the new circumstances. Ready for this? Here we go. From Mark Means. I've been asked repeatedly for a comment on the letter issued by Fremont County today regarding the passing of Mrs. Daybell. First and foremost, my renewed condolences to her family. Secondly, why is Fremont County issuing a statement? It's my recollection that a Fremont deputy was present during the Fremont coroner's investigation at the Daybell property. Did Fremont County not ask the Idaho Attorney General to conduct this investigation? Thirdly, Fremont County elected coroner ruled her, meaning Mrs. Daybell, her death caused by natural causes. Fourth, one must ask why issue this nonsensical statement. He seems to like the word nonsensical all the time. He says, one must ask why issue this nonsensical statement in what is obviously a media teaser. It appears as a further attempt to bias/prejudice the jury pool in a current Fremont case through a not well-organized media campaign at the cost of the citizens of Idaho. Unleash your thoughts in the comments below on Mark Means and his Twitter rants, and in the comments below, please let me know your thoughts on Tammy's autopsy results as well. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please like and please share. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. As for heart failure, you know who else had fart failure.